Before Cleopatra, before Elizabeth. There was a woman who ruled with a silence that made men tremble. She began as a concubine, one girl in a sea of silk and shadows. No one expected her to survive court life. No one imagined she'd take the throne. But she didn't just survive. She outlasted emperors, buried her enemies, and crowned herself ruler of the world's greatest empire. Her name was Zetian, and the path she took was paved with blood, brilliance, and betrayal. This isn't just the story of China's only female emperor. This is the story of how she became the most powerful woman in Chinese history, and what she did to stay there. Eras fade, but stories endure. In 636 AD, a 14-year-old girl named Wu Zhao entered the Tang imperial palace. She was smart, observant, beautiful. A concubine to the aging Emperor Taizong, just one voice among many. But when Taizong died in 649, tradition demanded she become a nun. And so, she was sent to a Buddhist convent, her head shaved, her future erased. Most would have accepted that fate. Wu didn't. She waited. And when the new emperor, Taizong's son Gaozong, began visiting the temple, Wu saw what others didn't, a door back into the game. Wu returned to court, this time not as a concubine, but as Gaozong's lover. A woman who had once served his father was now sharing his bed. Whispers swirled through palace halls. Some were outraged, others impressed. But Wu didn't care. She was no longer watching from the sidelines. Then, in 654 AD, tragedy struck. Her infant daughter died suddenly. Wu pointed the finger at Empress Wang, her chief rival. And soon, so did the emperor. But rumors took on a life of their own. That Wu had sacrificed her own child, coldly, deliberately, to frame Wang. The truth? We may never know. What's certain is this. Wang and another consort were imprisoned, humiliated, and eventually executed. And Wu? She took the Empress's seat. By 655 AD, Wu was Empress in name. But over the next decade, she became Empress in power. As Gaozong's health faltered, Wu stepped forward, not officially, but unmistakably. Behind a curtain, she issued commands in his name. Ministers bowed to her shadow. Those who defied her were removed, quietly, brutally. One chancellor, once among her strongest supporters, was accused of treason, exiled, and when he resisted, forced to end his own life. One official, tortured for days, tore out his own tongue. To stop himself from revealing names under pain, the palace became a place of fear. Loyalty wasn't enough. Silence was survival. In 690 AD, Wu crossed a line no woman in China had ever dared. She forced her own son, the reigning emperor, to step aside, and declared herself ruler, not regent, not dowager, emperor. She founded a new dynasty, the Zhou, interrupting centuries of Tang rule. She was 66 years old, and more powerful than any woman before, or since. Wu's rule was a paradox, both brutal and brilliant. She expanded the civil service exams, opening government roles to men of talent, not just bloodline. She elevated Buddhism, building temples, commissioning texts, and casting herself as a divine figure of justice. But her mercy had limits, and they were razor-thin. In 693 AD, a poet who criticized female rule in veiled verse was executed. A minister suspected of disloyalty was thrown to wild dogs, his body left in the courtyard as a warning. Even her own family wasn't spared. One son, gone, likely poisoned. Another, forced to take his own life. Her throne stood above kinship, sentiment, and fear. She was reshaping China, but not without blood on her hands. By 704 AD, Wu was aging. Illness crept in, and those who had once feared her now waited for her fall. In 705, a palace coup forced her to abdicate, quietly, without trial, without spectacle. She died soon after, at the age of 81. Her tomb lies outside Xi'an, carved into a mountain. Her epitaph, blank, left untouched by imperial order. Not a single word to define her legacy. Zetian. Her name lives in history, but her legacy is tangled in shadows. She came from nothing. She fought her way to the top. She took the throne, and she ruled an empire with a hand both tender and terrifying. Her reign was marked by fear, but also by change. The empire she left behind was stronger in some ways, weaker in others. Was she a tyrant, a visionary, or simply a woman who did whatever it took to survive a world that wanted to silence her? Her death. It was quiet, unnoticed. No grand funeral, no words to mark her greatness. In the end, who was Zetian? History's greatest enigma. A woman who rewrote the rules, only to be erased by them. The questions she leaves us with are profound. What are we willing to sacrifice for power? How far can ambition carry us before we lose ourselves? Eras fade, but stories endure, and this one is far from over.